You're listening to Kay Smythe on KABC, where we move beyond the debate and into discourse with people from all walks of life, designed to save society from itself. Join Kay and her guests as they navigate the toughest conversations and prove that the two-party way of thinking is killing America. As Kay always says, no one can control your freedom or free will but you. With that in mind, let's get into it.
Welcome back to the KAY SMYTHE Show on KABC. For those of you who don't know how to spell my name, as it's just recently been pointed out to me because it is a ridiculous surname. It is K-A-Y. My surname is S-M-Y-T-H-E. KAY SMYTHE. That's me. And I am joined again this week by my incredibly, again, enigmatic co-host, Danny Ho.
Thank you.
I don't think we're going to share any more than, I don't know, what do you want me to, your Instagram handles? Danny Jr. Ho is where you need to follow.
Yeah, Danny, J-R-H-O.
Dope. Mm-hmm. Love it.
There's one fact about Danny Ho that is actually true.
Which one is that?
He cooks the best tomahawk steak on the planet.
Oh, he does. Guy
Literally.
Fieri, if you're out there listening. Or what's the other guy? What's the other one on the Food Network?
The other one, exactly.
Yeah, the other one. The other chef. What's the other one? No, what's the one that I watched that you don't like?
Emerald?
No. Sorry, we're also joined today by my brilliant guest, but also the best person I know, Lanny June, actor extraordinaire, also now co-host, or host I should say, of the LDK Project, our other podcast, and has been here for the last 3 weeks with us on KABC. No, what's the guy? Bobby Flay. That's the one.
Yeah. I grew up watching Bobby Flay.
Every single man I know, when I bring up Bobby Flay, goes, ugh.
Did I do that?
Yeah, that's the noise.
That was my face?
That was the noise you
him.
just made.
No, you mean I remember eating at his restaurant, a Mesa in New York, and it was delicious.
Were the portions big?
No.
Oh, yeah, so no, he don't count. Bobby Flay, we challenge you to try and beat Danny Ho at the Tomahawk. You won't be able to. And also the mushrooms you did the last time.
Although, not to knock on your cooking, Danny, or your chef ability, the tomahawk that we had at Stagecoach Grill in Utah was pretty, I wouldn't say on par, but it was like pretty close up there with yours.
I think the quality of the meat was probably the best quality meat I've ever had in America.
I mean, it was definitely the best steak that I've had at a restaurant, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. Dang. That's okay. So that's a heck of a claim. So if you are planning on going to Zion National Park in anytime, we highly recommend, and we're not being paid for this, but we highly recommend going to the Stagecoach Grill in, I believe it's in Hurricane, near
Apple Valley.
Well, the little village we were in that John basically started is Apple Valley,
Gotcha.
I think. And then we were in Hurricane. But anyway, the point of the show this week, again, is not to talk about food. Sorry, guys, to digress slightly there. But I guess we could probably bring it back around to food at the end. But no, the point in the show this week is to actually pick off where we left off last Friday, which was talking about cancel culture, how, the hypocrisy of cancel culture plays out, and whether we should be, we should definitely hashtag cancel cuties, but cancel Netflix, maybe not. And what I really wanted to kind of get into today, and Danny, I'd love for you to kind of kick off this part of the discussion, but I really wanted to talk about where is the line? The purpose of this show is to move beyond the debate and into discussion. I guarantee that we could get Ben Shapiro, we could get the Queen, we could get, gosh, I don't know, my father, who's a borderline communist, he's so left-wing, and my Uncle John, who's pro-Brexit, and we could all get it, it's not Uncle John because he's actually a vegetarian, but everyone else, I'm sure we could get a menagerie of people into this room, and we could all agree that we do like a really good steak. But clearly there's polarity in this country that we like to call the best country in the world. So when it comes to the line with loved ones, where is it? And I want to specifically talk about loved ones. I don't want to talk about the general public because I don't think anyone should be exposed to them, including us. But Danny, where is the line for you? Where is the line where you cancel someone?
So, unless, even going back to your previous show or the last show about pedophilia, if it ever goes there, that's the line. But normally, Lanny, you and I Kay, you and I think on paper we're so different. Right?
Yeah.
We're so different. And on paper, we shouldn't like each other.
Oh,
at all.
definitely.
I don't like, any of the stuff that you do. But
What do you mean? Like Lanny, he's fine.
I mean, we're so different, right? In so many different areas, especially personality. But what do we always the commonality that we have is we always agree to disagree. We always agree to disagree, and so we never have any arguments. And sometimes we do, but it's so minor. And what do? We just agree to disagree, and we move on. We talk about something else. And then if we don't agree with that, then agree to disagree again. Right. And I think that's how it should be as much as possible. I mean, that's just my opinion, because we don't have to have such a strong opinion on politics and say, okay, this is my opinion and you have to believe it.
Right.
It's just, okay, fine, that's your opinion. I respect your opinion, but I don't agree with it, and I'm okay with it too. And let's get a steak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really couldn't agree more. And that's certainly something that I think we all strive for. I know that there are going to be so many people listening who are just like, no, because I feel like I've been personally practicing my own form of like cancel culture for years. Like I remember when I was in high school, this chick who was, like claimed to be my friend, she said a lot of really nasty things about me and my family. And so that was the line for me. Like, you're done. We're never going to be friends again. Goodbye. Like that's my, like as soon as that trust is broken, that's where it ends for me. And I know there's like Lanny and I have broken up a couple of times, but the reason that, at least for me personally, why we were always in the past able to work through our difficulties is because I felt like we sat and listened well. And I think even though there were elements of our arguments where there was definitely one or both of us at fault, it was never about blame. Like we were never looking to win in those arguments.
Exactly.
And I think, I wonder about the number of divorces, the number of friendships that would still exist if we weren't so intent on policing other people's behaviors to a point of like, oh, I'm going to blame you for your opinion, even though your opinion maybe doesn't even have any like actual real world context in action. Like we have really close friends who are pro-life.
Right.
That's not something I would ever impose upon someone who, like, if someone wants the right to an abortion, like, go and get one. Be my guest.
Yeah.
But I'm like, in the same way, I guess my friends who are pro-life also wouldn't vote for pro-life policies because that would infringe upon the rights of another. So I guess that's where the line is for me personally. I don't know, Lanny, what about you?
In terms of? Well,
like, yeah, where is the line for you in terms? I mean, you and I are just so unique because I don't think we ever want to spend time with people anyway.
It's again, everything is so subjective. Everything is so relative, right? It's ever changing. But pedophilia will always be wrong. You know what I mean? Like there are certain things in life that there's a hard no. But we live in a climate where a hard no to some other folk is not a hard no, and they want to talk about it, like pedophilia. Whereas people like us, there's no room to talk about pedophilia. Like, we know what it is for us, and so we want to get away from it, deem it wrong, and stop it. But the fact that we're even talking about it is blowing my mind. We're on a radio show, guys.
Yeah.
And we're talking about whether or not pedophilia is wrong or right, or whether it should be canceled or not. That's bonkers.
And it's crazy as well because, and I think this is actually something that I want to touch upon. So in the UK, where I come from, the legal age of consent is 16. And so if you're 16 years old, I think we also have Romeo and Juliet laws, which is when your partner is over the age, you're under the age, but you're in a consenting relationship and you can prove that you've been in a consenting relationship for a significant amount of time. Again, massively oversimplifying that. But yeah, in the UK, the legal age of consent is 16. And I tell you what, all of my friends from high school who had kids when they were 16 or under, they are brilliant parents, like absolutely amazing parents. I think that they actually get to spend more time with their children because, they're still pretty young when they have kids. They certainly have great relationships with their kids. And even, like I lost my virginity when I was, quote, underage. And, you know, I'm not dead. That doesn't count as pedophilia. What we're talking about is Cuties, the Netflix show that basically objectifies young children in such a way that it's playing into, I mean, gosh, all of the horrific crises that we've seen this year. And yeah, when it comes to pedophilia, and another word for pedophilia I should know is child rape, yeah, that should be cancelled. But when it comes to cancelling family members because they're going to vote for someone differently to you, like I get a lot of flack because I go off a lot against Biden and Kamala on this show. Like, it's funny, one of Biden's main fundraising people is a close personal friend of mine and someone I absolutely love. Like, I can actually say that I love this guy. He's a great friend. He's a dear friend. He's someone who I know if I was... Like, I mean, we've been personally invited to go and stay at this guy's house, but I wouldn't, if I could, vote for the guy that he's just like built his career off of for the last couple of years. Like, it's crazy, right? How is it that we as individuals who are pretty anti the Democratic Party, I think.
We're anti-politics.
Anti-politics, yeah, that's a better way to put it. Like, we're definitely anti-politics, let's be honest. Like, I don't think we're for any party.
No.
I think at all at this point.
Again, people need to understand that you're coming from numbers, research. You're not coming from the right. You're like, that's what people need to understand. Kay Smythe is a scientist, ladies and gentlemen. She comes from science, numbers, research. This is not opinion. And so when you come from that, there's no discourse there. There's no argument there. So go away.
Thank you, Lanny. And when we come back, because we don't want you to go away, we want you to come back because this next segment, we really want to hear... well, if you're listening, you should definitely come back and give us your opinion on this stuff because it'll be coming up in the next show as well. So come back. The KAY SMYTHE Show on KABC. Welcome back to the KAY SMYTHE Show on KABC. That's at KAY SMYTHE, at KAYSMYTHE. So again, this week joined by Danny and Lanny, or Lanny and Danny, I should say. Again, that's at Lanny and Danny, little N in the middle.
And the LDK Project.
Oh, and at the LDK Project, which is our other podcast where we're allowed to swear and get into all this stuff. But this next segment, let's get into it because our amazing, I don't know, how do I describe your career? You're a radio producer. Our amazing producer, Art, just pointed out, our amazing producer here, Art, he just came out with the idea that no social media until you're over the age of 18. And after watching The Social Dilemma, and let's be honest, most of the crises that we're dealing with right now, especially in terms of polarity, come from the existence of social media and the mainstream media, I will also say, as Jeff Keithley, my favorite friend and fan of the show. I got to give a shout out to Jeff. He texts me every single week when he knows we're recording, and then when we go out live, has been so supportive throughout all of this. Jeff, you brilliant thing. But one, I just completely lost my train of thought. But one of the things that we deal with, obviously as a result of the mainstream media and social media in general, is the normalization of the sexualization of children. We also deal with political polarity based on fake news. And so it's gotten to the point where clearly the issue is the fact that we're all overexposed to one another and there's just a heck of a lot of stupid in the world. So in this next segment, maybe I would love to get your guys' take on social media. What do you think? 18 is the legal age for social media. Same with drugs, same with alcohol. So you can get addicted to social media the same way as drugs.
I agree. I think that's a great idea. And we're going to get into bullying because of that.
Yeah, it ties into cancel culture, right? We all feel like we're a part of a tribe, hence we are empowered to speak this rhetoric that our tribe has mustered up. And it's scary to stand alone, right? But the thing is, there are people who are like-minded. It just takes a little effort in this darn city called Los Angeles. But just what I would like to tell, I guess, the common man, and to myself, right, is maybe there is a part of your psyche that is incorrect. Maybe there is a part of yourself that is wrong. Not to say that you are completely wrong, but question yourself, question the idea. and then maybe you're able to see the whole picture rather than just the left or the right. My political views changed a lot because of people like Kenny, who is one of my best, dearest friends. Do I agree with everything he says? No. But I understand everything he says comes from the same place that I do. I say it this way, we're all on the same freeway, just in different lanes. But we're all trying to become successful in our own life. We want to feel safe. We want to be happy. But when did that, like, we have lanes for a reason. And people say, well, stay in your lane. Yeah. But it's if you go into someone else's lane, you got to turn on the headlight. You got to turn on the blinkers saying, hey, I'm coming in. You got to be respectful. But we're living in a day and age where, well, we're all citizens. We're all on the freeway. I'm going to drive however we want. Nah, like there's rules for a reason. And so I guess those rules are question yourself. Like, everything that I'm saying to you guys and vice versa, what if we're wrong?
Oh, we probably are about some things.
Right. But again, to everybody out there, when you're so, and I'm guilty of this, I am the biggest hypocrite for saying this, but when you take a side and you throw these words and rhetoric to the other side, if you bark like everyone else, what makes your bark different?
I mean, yeah, that you just hit the nail on the head. When you just scream into the void and you scream and repeat everything that's being fed to you through social media, through the mainstream media, I mean, not only are you, quote, part of the problem, but you're actually an addict. You're part of a machine and you're not an individual anymore.
Yes.
Like, that's where my biggest concern is. And I think what's interesting is that behavior, that kind of bandwagon cancel culture, jumping on top of the thing that we don't like and beating it down. Yes, that's mob mentality, which is, inherently redundant anyway, because we should all be living in nomadic tribes and we never should have left the cave, in my opinion. But it also perpetuates that ignorance. And so what happens... Well, no, we know what happens when we perpetuate the mob mentality. That's why we have, like, the political issues that we have today. And look at this election that we're walking into. Like, we're literally choosing between... And I mean, the Republican Party, I think they've been fairly steadfast in everything that they've wanted to be for the last, 50 years or so. But it's the reason why so many people who claim to be, quote, liberal will go and vote for the Democrats, who put on this, amazing party face and, push all of the most admittedly quite boring, but all the happy stuff through social media. Oh, under our last president, we legalized gay marriage. Yeah, but you didn't stop mass incarceration, did you? You didn't stop mass shootings. You didn't stop those other huge things that we're still running on now as your platform. Right. You're just going to hold up that one shiny thing, and that if you're just going to stick to that one shiny thing that you like about someone, for me, that's a huge problem. I guess maybe then when it comes to cancel culture, I mean, in the same way it's bullying. It's the same thing that we all did in high school. It's finding kind of the lowest common denominator and jumping on them and harassing them. But I don't know, where does the line in cancel culture come? Because, it's just so...
But it's also a moneymaker.
So complicated and confusing, because then things like cuties should be cancelled, but Netflix shouldn't be cancelled. So do you think maybe, because I've talked myself around this now, the issue is a lack of listening, a lack of... do you think as Americans that your fellow citizens and your peers, do you think they're good listeners? Do you think they're good at educating themselves on issues before they make decisions for themselves?
I think a lot of people in this generation, I would say, they don't talk to listen. They talk to get their point across. They never want to listen. That's it. They talk to complain. They talk to, they want you to know that this is my opinion. Again, we're going back to the subject.
Right.
And then that's it. They never want to hear your side.
How do you reconcile that, Danny, as someone who works in the kind of C-suite within businesses? I know that we've talked about this off air, but when it comes to our generation, how do you find that impacts, say, hiring? Have you found it easy to hire millennials? Let's talk about millennials for a minute. Let's get into it. How do you, as a group of millennials, how do you feel about working with other millennials?
There's your answer.
Yeah. If I ever get that, if I get the feeling that, when I was hiring, if I get the feeling that they have that millennial mentality, I cut them off.
Yeah.
I cut them off. That's it. And even if it just comes down to people that are talking just to talk and not to listen, I cut them off.
And for those of you listening at home, like Danny is the world's greatest enigma, but yeah, let's just say he's hired a lot of people in his life.
Yes.
And so if you are running a business and you want consultancy on how to mitigate a lot of the issues that comes from hiring the millennial generation, you can get in touch with us and we can definitely help you with that.
Yeah.
And it's just really sad because I equate the millennial culture to that of the participation trophies. Mm-hmm. That I still don't know how to wrap my head around the participation trophy, and then we live in that world, and then you add on pedophilia to that, and then you add on like the politics, but if at the genesis of a human being's life is they're given things when it's not warranted, what are you teaching your children? I'm surely talking in terms of nature as well. Let's say a lion has a baby. Or a little lion baby, right?
Lion cub.
A lion cub. Okay. Thank you. A lion baby cub. It doesn't teach the cub how to hunt because it doesn't want the cub to get tired and feel pain. But we as an animal culture, animal society, we're the only ones that cater to the weakest link.
Oh,
But the thing is, that's what makes us beautiful, right? That's what makes us human beings. That's what separates us from animals, in my opinion, is we can take care of the weak. We can take care of the people that need our help. But you know what? Who else does that? Wolves. Mm-hmm. And they do it a lot better than we do. Mm-hmm. They take care of their elder. They take care of the sick. But why can't we do that? We're more intelligent, apparently, than animals, right?
That is
apparently
so eloquently and beautifully put. Yeah, God, I wish I could swear. That was just so on point. And because, I mean, that really just touches on so many different things that I see within the American system too. It's like, it's easier for us to put people in prison instead of rehabilitating them, because learning how to rehabilitate people takes longer to learn how to do. When I talk to social workers out here, and I deal with a lot of social workers in my line of work, like for those of you who don't know, I literally spend all day turning people into doctors of science. And a lot of these people come from criminal justice backgrounds. A lot of them come from educational backgrounds, non-profits, mental health, like pretty much anything that you can get a PhD in, I can help you get that PhD. And the social workers who come to me, 9 times out of 10, they're dealing with the same issues over and over and over again. It's how do we stop people who are recently released from prison committing crimes again. It's like, well, if you don't want to rehabilitate them, you don't want to give them, say, skills, you don't want to give them options for employability. If you're going to brand them as a problem and then throw them out into the real world, yeah, they're probably going to end up on our streets and they're probably going to keep committing crimes. Like, duh! Like, how do people not realize that? And when we come back, we're going to keep getting into this. The KAY SMYTHE Show on KABC, that's KAYSMYTHE at KAY SMYTHE. Let's get back into it. Welcome back to KAY SMYTHE, or the KAY SMYTHE Show on KABC. It's just KAY SMYTHE. I'm the most important person here, let's be honest. Yeah. That's KAYSMYTHE. So today we were just talking about criminal justice reform, and again, most people who listen to this show probably think, oh, she must be a conservative because she doesn't like Biden and Kamala Harris. It's like, no, there's a plethora of science. That's why I don't like those two. I just don't bother talking about the Trump administration because at the end of the day, I don't know, I've done quite well under the Trump administration personally. But we were talking about criminal justice reform, and we were talking about how so many people in my line of work, for those of you who don't know, I ghostwrite and consult for people's PhDs and their dissertation. The number of people who I have worked with over the last 5-6 years of this career who are trying to figure out the way to stop people from continuing to commit crime when they leave prison, fail to realize that the reason that most people continue to commit crime when they leave prison is not because the opportunity isn't there for them to get real jobs and get rehabilitated back into society. That opportunity is there, but it's only there for people who can afford it and for people who have the intellect or have been provided with the education to know that those opportunities exist. Most people in this country are exposed to the American education system, which has been going down the toilet for the last 100 years. And to put into context, this country is like 250 years old, so that says it all. So when you stop investing in people, that's when you get high rates of crime and high rates of incarceration. Well, also you get people like Biden Harris, well, Biden particularly, who, you know, was obviously in favor of the crime bill. We talked about that on the last episode. But I want to kind of tie that into, I want to tie the fact that we have such a downgraded education system out here into the reason that we have the two-party system. So when people leave prison and continue to commit crimes, I personally don't really think you can blame them if you don't provide them with the education and the intellect to make better choices for themselves. In the same way, that is why we have the two-party system. How do you expect people to progress, like to actually progress when you have a two-party system? By the way, Bernie won against Hillary. That's something that most people don't know. So Bernie won against Hillary. And was it like one person from West Virginia put up a sign in 2016 at the conference to say Bernie won all 50 states?
Well, wasn't it because the Clinton Foundation was caught lying through emails? The head DNC chair, I believe Wasserman is her last name.
Oh, Wasserman, yeah.
Wasserman. She was caught doing some illegal things and basically threw Bernie under the bus.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
So we have a corrupt two-party system that controls 350 million people and their education, but the two-party system doesn't provide the people who vote for it with the education to make better choices, which is why we're in the situation we're in now in the lead up to this election. So then I guess my next question for you guys, because at the end of the day, we talk a lot about politics on this show, but I think a lot of people probably have a lot of questions about our politics because, as you know, Cal, one of our producers, just pointed out, we don't really talk about who we're in favor for. I'm for criminal justice reform. Mm-hmm. I'm also for the full legalization of cannabis. I'm for pro-choice. Like that, those are three things I just off the top of my head I can think about. But I'm also very pro-gun as a result of living in this country. I also think that the states should be 50 different countries and that we should all stop complaining about what people in other states do because they're so far away. Like, I mean, that's not how geography and human behavior works. But in terms of our politics, I mean, would you guys think, I mean, is it fair for me to say that we're fairly, I don't even want to say we're independent, we're not libertarian. Like, I think we're for, like, okay, let's talk about some things that we're pro, that we can all agree on when it comes to politics. Or, I mean, not, I don't know. What's some policies that you care about, maybe? Lanny? Danny?
I mean, prison reform is it's a big thing because the state makes so much money off these prisoners. And if I'm not mistaken, I think one inmate makes about $100,000 for these corporations a year.
Probably something like that, yeah.
So you think you put those two things together, so there's an incentive for these corporations to put these people into prison, right? And then you get into politics. You get into Kamala Harris putting African Americans into jail for doing one toke of marijuana that she said she did herself.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
It's just everything is intertwined. Like two-party system with the dumbest people, with the strongest. We're the strongest nation militarily. We're supposed to be the best country in the world, yet our education system is 54th or something like that.
I don't think it's even in the top 100 anymore.
And then and then people will say, "Well, are you talking about a conspiracy theory, Lenny, June?" I'm like, "No, I'm just literally just putting things together." And in your mind, it sounds like a conspiracy theory because you're unintelligent or too stupid enough to put these things together. But again, I'm not saying I'm right. I just have this perspective of maybe this is what it is. Because at the end of the day, the facts that we get from the FBI, CIA, or whatever news outlets that we get our information from, we have to check it.
Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the day, most often than not, it's probably bull.
And most people don't like to look outside. Like Danny, you were talking about, like, questioning things, looking at stuff from like the full perspective. So, I mean, with that in mind, if you had to look at the United States, and I guess, I mean, I know that you're super not into politics.
Mm-hmm.
That's like your kind of catchphrase, I guess. Not into politics. But as far as policy goes, and in terms of like the decision-making processes that you're seeing from, I guess, the United States in the lead up to this election, like, I would just love to get your take on that. Like, do you think that the education system has failed us and that's why we're in a two-party system? But like, or do you think that the two-party system is always going to be here?
I mean, I think the education system is awful. Why do you think I didn't graduate college?
Yeah, and yet you're one of the smartest people that I know.
I know. I was about to say,
Literally.
wait, I didn't even know you went to college. Did you go to college?
I went to college in high school. I started early.
No.
See,
Yeah.
you see
How
what
do
I'm
I
saying?
not know that about
He's
you?
one of those.
Wait,
And then I realized that it was a waste of time. But at the same, I mean, I had situations and I couldn't, right? I didn't have the money. And then, I mean, not to, toot my own horn, but I came out better than a lot of educated people.
I was about to say,
Most educated people.
I turn people into doctors all day, every day. And I've been working my entire life. Like, I've just always worked. Like, since I think before I could walk, my mum had me working. And I haven't made anywhere near as much money as you, which I think says it all. Yeah, literally says it all. So I guess then maybe the issue with the education system out here is less that it's not good, but more that it's designed to perpetuate the issues that we see. Like, okay, so this is another thing that I want to touch upon. How were you guys taught about race in school? Because I know we kind of lightly talked about this in our first episode, because one of the things that a lot of my clients have been coming out with recently is the fact that the United States education system, when it comes to talking about racial issues, it perpetuates racial issues because it normalizes the degradation of particularly the African American male within United States history. It kind of sets children up from a young age to like believe that they are designed for nothing, that they are going to end up on drugs, that they are going to end up in prison, that it's normal for them to be treated as second-class citizens. And that's something that I deal with every single day in my life. I mean, I see the evidence for it all day, every day in work. I'm sure if I had a client who came in who tried to find that the opposite was true, they could probably figure it out. But for the most part, the system out here, from my data, I've just answered your question, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Suggests that that's the case. But I haven't gone through the American education system, so tell me, as two people who have, what did you learn about?
I didn't learn anything in school.
But that's why you're smart. I'm like, no, like it's a joke, but it's not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, when I say Danny's one of the smartest people that I know, is because he had to figure it out. Danny came from. Danny is self-made in every sense of the word, and if you knew his personal life and what he had to endure, and for him to be in the position that he's at, it's a superpower.
So for our listeners then at home, because Danny's right, it is a superpower. Like you unto yourself, like you're a superpower.
Thank you.
But
You guys are being too nice.
How did you? I don't think that's something that Lanny and I can ever be accused of. But I mean, for you personally, what was it, or how do you approach living in the world? I would say that you're pretty disengaged from politics, but tell me, how do you kind of navigate this as like someone who's self-educated? What do you look for? How do you practice being a human being in this society?
I cut out all the crap. I cut out all the crap. We had this conversation yesterday about social media. I try not to make it the first thing that I look at in the morning. Anybody that's negative, I don't talk to. We had this conversation earlier about anyone that doesn't like to listen. I don't like to talk to them because they're so focused on what they have to say. Yeah. So anything negative, social media, I cut it out and I just focus on what's better for me. That's it. And then what I can do to help others.
That is solid advice, guys. That's solid advice that I need to take, especially when it comes to checking social media in the morning. Can you imagine how much happier we would all be if we didn't just wake up and look at social media? I mean, for me, it's I wake up and I look at my emails from my clients and I'm like, just screaming to the void like a velociraptor.
Well, just dawned on me too now is, all three of us kind of have
It's okay, carry on.
like a similar kind of denomination, which is we're all three of us were oddballs growing up. We never kind of went with the crowd, not because it was our choice, but because it was just the circumstances we grew up in. And I think that is what most people are missing, because again, we want to be a part of a tribe. It's our human instinct to want to be a part of a tribe, to feel safe. When you grow up with friends your entire life, which is a wonderful thing, right? I'm not saying kids should grow up with no friends, but there is something to say about those kids who are deemed weird, oddballs, outcasts. Those are the ones who actually become successful and think differently.
So in the next segment then, I think we should definitely talk more about groupthink, because I think groupthink is what's really killing America, and I think you absolutely nailed it there, Lanny. Thank you for setting that up. Again, you set up every segment, I feel. KAY SMYTHE Show on KABC, ladies and gentlemen, here with Danny Ho and Lanny June. That's KAYSMYTHE. Head over to my website and become a client. You might just learn something. Okay, so we're back in for the last segment of episode 3 on the KAY SMYTHE Show. That's KAYSMYTHE. Head over to my website and become a client today. Joined for this last segment still by the amazing Danny Ho and the brilliant Lanny June. We are now going to finalize the show by talking about groupthink and how basically throughout the course of the discussion over the last couple of episodes, we've come to the conclusion that groupthink is what is destroying America. Lanny, do you want to explain how? Because you do it better than me.
Well, I was saying that, you know, the common denominator between the three of us is that we grew up kind of the oddballs within our kind of friendship groups. And again, it wasn't because it was our choice. I think in that moment, we'd want to be a part of the group. We'd want to, you know, feel popular. But I think all three of us grew up unpopular, right? No one really knew who we... Well, I guess...
I was popular for very wrong reasons.
Exactly.
Like,
but
definitely.
But that ties into the idea of, this group culture, what this tribal... Group thinking kind of culture. It's innate in us. That's what we're supposed to do. But unfortunately, right now, most of us think the same. And when the thought is, in my opinion, going towards a negative place, if the whole public thinks the same way, we are in big, big trouble. But again, that's why we need opposition. It's necessary. We need left and right. We need more options, to be more frank, right? We need more parties to vote for. But it's the idea of grouping each other. And so if you are deemed different, it sucks. But we grew up in that. We know what it's like, but now we understand that is what it takes to get what we want in life.
And I also just want to point out that all of my, I'm not even going to call them friends, all the people who I've met in this town who are here to get a career in entertainment, who, you know, post all the right stuff on social media, who track their social media, who are part of that side of groupthink, they don't have a radio show. But Danny, what about you? Because I would say, I completely agree with Lanny. I mean, your lived experience was like nothing else I'd ever experienced. My childhood was completely non-standard. Danny's, yours was completely out the box. But how do you feel like looking at groupthink? Like, what are your views on groupthink in America right now?
It's tough because I feel like you said, we're put in a group to think a certain way, right? And then we have these views on politics and whatever, and it's, I don't want to get too much into it. It's tough. But I would say that it's better to be independent, have your own opinion at the same time, and not too focus on yours, but just be your own person, and don't rely on other people to get that energy, and that's it. Just don't be so dependent on other people.
Yeah. And I mean, that is so beautifully put. And I think that everything you've just described is normalized for our generation as millennials, because even though we weren't raised with social media, we came of age with social media, at least like most people did. I personally couldn't, I dropped every phone I owned up until the age of about 22. I dropped down the toilet. So if I had a phone, it was a cheap one. So I wasn't on social media all day, every day, like pretty much all of my peers. And I think that having that kind of sense of validation from groupthink is why we're in the position we are today, where we've got the liberals who have chosen Biden and Harris. And God, I feel like I've just like beaten that horse to death now. Like, not a fan, mostly for facts. Also because I think we could have done better. I really do. Also because Bernie won back in 2016, and I would much rather have had the debate be between Bernie and Trump. Like, that's actually diversity.
Yeah.
Like, what we have now is just, we have like one party that looks like two parties, which is just hysterical to me as well to like view. But groupthink, I mean, it perpetuates the issues that we see in social media with mental health decline. It's the reason that we still have a two-party system and we haven't demanded more of our politics, because it's easier, right? It's easier to vote one way or the other. We find that as individuals because, like, we don't have a party who we would choose. I don't even have a party back in the UK. We have a 7-party system. And, you know, I'm not saying that that's any better, because we have a first past the post kind of initiative when it comes to people as they're voted into power. We don't do popular electoral college type thing. We do literally just a first past the post, which is just as bad. There are problems in all versions of politics, but the problem with politics is the people. And when it comes to people, groupthink perpetuates the issues that we're seeing today, and all the issues that we've talked about over the last 3 episodes, which are, I can't believe we're having these discussions in this day and age, which is like pedophilia, racism.
That's people have the problem with everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Do you think it would be better if more, like, okay, say we got rid of social media today. Do you think our problems would get better? Like, would they start to be less apparent?
I think the world would end for many people.
No, but honestly, I think that might seem like a joke, but it's really not. Because social media is an absolute drug that we are hooked on. People go through withdrawals, and I'm thinking physical withdrawals, because when we get those endorphin kicks, when we get those likes, and that goes away, that's a physiological thing that happens to your body. So we might laugh at what you just said, but that is the absolute truth.
Do you think we should go on a social media fast?
I mean,
like,
people do
everyone
that.
should.
People do that. But
people who sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I mean, that's what it's come to, though. People have to fast social media.
Literally less than 15 years. I just want to throw this out there. Yeah. It's less than 15 years of this thing being a part of our lives. Okay, yeah, like the same thing happened with crack. The same thing happened with like heroin.
Right, but you don't give it to your kids, right? Like, the people who created social media, the ones who created this beautiful monstrosity, right? They don't even give it to their own kids. The people who have created social media, ladies and gentlemen, do not give a screen to their own children. They don't give the screens to their own children. And we're not questioning the safety or the validity of social media.
I mean, it literally changes neural pathways, right? Like,
literally.
I mean, from a physical response. So we have this part of a brain, the amygdala, which is our fight or flight response center. And like, we've talked about this a lot this year because we've been experimenting with psychedelics, and we find how well that helps our mental health. Like, 100%. I will say, so just to contextualize again, a year ago I was suicidal. I genuinely, I didn't think, but it's funny now when you think about it. I can't believe where I was a year ago. I was like on my way. It's so funny as well. You talked about like going back to like tribal thinking. The last person I worked with who was like, oh yeah, we need to all be in tribes. Yeah, he still owes me money and tried to sexually assault me. But the thing is, though, when I look at where we were or where I was a year ago, like when I was suicidal, depressed, didn't think that I'd make it to see my 27th birthday coming up now next month. And I look at where we are today. I've actually lost like over 10,000 Instagram followers because I stopped posting so much. And I stopped doing things to appease the social media world. In fact, the last significant thing I did on social media was get in touch with you.
Oh, wow. How
crazy is that? So like when we met, I think I knew from the off, Like, I didn't know from our first date, but I knew pretty quickly that, like, I wasn't gonna let you leave me, basically. Like, you're not going anywhere. And so, you know, I realized not long after that, like, oh God, what am I even using social media for? What? Like, it's not like I can find any legitimate news or content on here, because I read studies and I read like real data and science all day, every day.
Right.
But most people use social media to get their facts and data, and it's all rubbish. Like, it's all rubbish. And yet we've created groupthink under the guise of like social media being this like form of information that we can have in our palms every day. Like, oh, here, like follow these pages and you'll get all the data you need. No, there's no fact checking that. There's no one actually confirming that that's legit. And most people, most of you listening at home, you listening right now, I can see you, I can't, but I guarantee the more I keep talking, the more likely you are to pick up your phone and start scrolling through social media and not listen to what I'm saying. And that goes straight back to Danny's point. Right?
Inception right there.
I watch people do this every day. We've created...
We're guilty of it.
So guilty of it.
Yeah.
We're such hypocrites when it comes to this. Me less so, because I'm great. I don't think I've ever done anything wrong. But no, it is. Like, I mean, social media, it's not the reason I was suicidal, but I tell you what, coming off it and not using it as a metric to validate how happy I am has helped enormously. So maybe we need to stop being validated through social media. We need to stop validating other people through social media.
That right there.
And I also want to note that most of the success, like the really successful people I know, they don't have that many followers on social media.
Nope,
they don't leverage it for the same purposes. Like, I mean, we leverage it for marketing. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, to make money. Fine.
Yeah.
Right.
That's it.
That's
literally, and I mean, I think that, God, does that mean we've got other problem?
I'm sure we are.
I don't care.
The thing is, though, like,
we're hypocrites.
Everyone is. I think just to be human being is to be a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Because we have to live and learn through the mistakes that we have made, right? Which are all the things that I've been telling people not to do. I've made all those mistakes. But I would like to think, as a smart person, as an intelligent person, but again, we have one of the worst educational systems in the planet. But
it's okay, baby, you got me.
But I lost my train of thought.
Just don't rely on it.
Yeah, just don't rely on social media.
Yeah.
So I guess, to wrap up the show then today, guys, do you think it's fair to say, God, we just did 2 hours of shows in one long streak. So I'm sorry if we sound a little bit fatigued at this point, but we'll be coming back to you next Friday again. But I think, to sum up the show today, let's start taking a step away from social media. Treat social media like we used to treat fiction books back in the day. When you're bored and you got time on your hands, pick up and read a chapter. Pick up and scroll for a minute, but treat it as fiction. Do not treat social media as your metric. Do not get your validation through social media. Also, cancel cuties. But no, I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up the show today. It's kind of ironic though that I'm also going to say please follow us on social media because at the end of the day you are going to still find interesting stuff. God, guys, join us next week for more hypocrisy. This is the KAY SMYTHE Show featuring Danny Ho, Lanny June. KAY SMYTHE is me. I love you. I appreciate you. Go be a hypocrite, but don't tell other people what to do. Bye.